We're glad to have on this program at today's session an outstanding representative of the Republican Party in this great city of Chicago. He is a member of the Chicago City Council, where he has served intelligently, effectively, and courageously in the public interest. His service has been such as to reflect great honor to himself and to the Republican Party. It is my pleasure to introduce to this convention the Honorable Archibald Carey of Chicago, Alderman of the City of Chicago. The address, Honorable A.J. Carey.
Mr. Chairman,
we must have these aisles cleared, and I must urge that Mr. Carey be given the attention of the convention. Let's not have caucuses going on in the aisles. Please give consideration to these distinguished speakers.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegates to the Republican National Convention and my fellow Americans, never in history have so many eyes fixed their gaze upon the deliberations of a political convention. Never in history have so many hearts fixed their hopes upon the success of the Republican Party. Throughout America, tens of millions are watching us. And throughout the world, hundreds of millions are imploring God to help us find the way to victory. We must not fail them. In the long history of America, the Republican Party has been the party of freedom. It was the Republican Party that freed America of the blot of human bondage by abolishing human slavery. It was the Republican Party that freed the people from the grip of monopolies by smashing the trust. It was the Republican Party that liberated the people from the desolate wilderness by aiding private enterprise to lay the railroads, develop the industries, build the cities, and rear the mighty empire which is America. It was the Republican Party that freed the people from the terror of war, because the only years of peace enjoyed by the American people in the 20th century were under Republican administration. And if the people are ever to be freed from the cruel burden of crushing taxes, the shameful blight of unequal treatment, the awful slaughter of undeclared wars, and the confusion and corruption of government that confounds the people and clouds our national honor, it will be the Republican Party that frees them again. While the Republican Party has been the party of performances on the one hand, on the other hand, the Democrat Party of late has been the party of promises. As a boy, I heard them promise to keep us out of one war, and as a man, I heard them promise to keep us out of another. We entered both those wars as soon as we had elected Democrat presidents, either because they wouldn't or couldn't keep their word. If they wouldn't, they were dishonest. If they couldn't because of world affairs, they were irresponsible to make the promises. In either case, millions of white crosses bear mute witness that the American people cannot afford either dishonesty or ignorance in their White House. As a taxpayer, I've heard them promise to reduce the cost of government, but under the Democrats, taxes have multiplied. As a citizen, I've heard them swear to uphold our Constitution, but I've seen the Constitution flouted by sending American boys into undeclared wars under the name police action. As a Negro American, I have been sorely disappointed, and millions of freedom-loving people of every race have been disappointed with me. We've heard them promise an anti-lynch law and a federal FEPC, to abolish the poll tax in national elections and end segregation in the armed forces. On most critical roll calls, most Republicans supported these measures. But in spite of this, the anti-lynch law and the FEPC remain pledges unfulfilled. The poll tax is not forbidden, and segregation still exists in the armed forces. When some Democrats tried, the Dixiecrats did it. I answer, there is no Dixiecrat party, only the Democrats. North and South, they're all Democrats. Democrats. And it is the Democrat Party that must bear full responsibility for its failure. The string of promises dangled before my people like a glittering necklace has been fastened about their throats into a tight-fitting noose, strangling their freedom and their freedom of choice, and sometimes even their hope. I would be less than honest if I did not grant that under the Democrats some help has been given little people. They have taken from the favored and given to the less favored. I do not quarrel with this, for I believe with all my heart in the spirit of the gentle Nazarene and the words of Paul that we who are strong ought bear the infirmities of the weak. But the unseen tragedy is this, that in order to give the needy one a pittance, they have taken from that same one his initiative, his industry, his incentive to high endeavor, and even the reward of his enterprise. They spread across the pages of history an endless chain of broken promises. They promised peace, and there is no peace. They promised prosperity, but now they take substance from the least of us. They promised order, but we live in dismal chaos, and such has been the 20 years of Democrat rule. The Bible tells of the time when Jacob deceived his blind father by holding out hairy mittens to represent Esau's hairy hand. Isaac heard the voice, and he touched the hand, and perplexed he said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." The Democrats have spoken to the American people, and especially to the people of my race group, with the voice of Jacob, but they have put forth the pitiful performance of the hands of Esau for deceiving so long by promising so much and doing so little. Next November, the American people should write the epitaph of this Democrat administration, and that epitaph should be in words like the book of Genesis. The voice was Jacob's voice, but the hands were the hands of Esau. It was for the promises the Democrats made that the people gave them power, and let no Republican underestimate that fact. But now, disillusioned and despairing, the people turn to us, the Republicans, to get performance. Our destiny is at once as simple but as solemn as that, to give performance and fulfillment to the great hope which the people nurture in their hearts. Foremost among these is the issue of human rights, the question of fair and equal treatment for every man, regardless of his race or his color, his religion or his national origin. Although many different races, religions, and nationalities suffer discrimination from time to time, the matter comes to focus today upon the Negro American. There are two important aspects of this matter for this assemblage of Republicans to consider. One, from a practical political standpoint, is that the Negro vote is crucial in this election. I direct your attention to a report recently issued by Elmo Roper. In that, he pointed out that in 8 key northern cities, the Negro vote is the balance of power. The Republican Party can ill afford to lose those 8 key cities in key states with their corresponding key electoral votes. I trust it is not immodest to refer to it, but is it significant that the Republican Party has not occupied the White House since it lost the Negro vote? The fact is that Negro Americans today are the most sensitive and flexible voting blocks of the electorate. In our striving toward complete emancipation, today's experience will determine how we vote tomorrow. I mean, what happens this morning will determine how we vote this afternoon. The Negro American aspires to first-class citizenship, and his vote will adhere to whichever party and whichever nominee goes furthest to implement that aspiration. And there are millions of non-Negroes too, Jews and Catholics, Mexicans and Orientals, and immigrants from the corners of the earth, whose major love is freedom too. But the second aspect is more important. There is a much larger consideration for America. Our world leadership is challenged. You heard General MacArthur here last night speak of a relative decline in our world position. We are in contest with other nations and other ideologies for the support of the peoples of the world. We have spent billions of the peoples of the world. We have spent billions of the peoples of the world. We have spent billions of the peoples of the world. We have spent billions, hinges not on our cash, but on our conduct. Untold millions are scrutinizing our conduct toward each other to determine how they will fare at our hands. As a result, human relations has become the major matter of American affairs. Once upon a time, the treatment of colored people in America was a minority problem because it was concerned only with a submerged tent. But hear me, today it is over 75% of our case because of the peoples of the world for whose support we are bidding. Over 3/4 of them are colored. Until we proclaim and practice complete freedom for all Americans, we cannot hope to proclaim with success our promise of freedom to all the world. Leadership is demonstrated not by talking about it, but by asserting it. If the Republican Party leads the people's fight, the Republican Party will be the people's leader. If the Republican Party lifts freedom's banner, the host will march beneath it to progress and brotherhood and peace. The Republican Party became great when it launched the fight for human freedom. The Republican Party will be greater when it widens freedom's borders. We must take high ground. We cannot tolerate expediency. No mere political motive should direct our course. And we cannot compromise with righteousness. The people are bewildered and frustrated and alarmed. They have no patience today with petty politics. They want statesmen, and they need statesmanship. For 20 faltering years, the Democrats have led them, stumbling through the darkness. Now the Republican Party must catch them by the hand and lead them to the light, remembering the injunction of the man of Galilee, that whosoever would be the greatest among you must be the servant of all. This is a formula for success, but it will take character and courage of the highest order. To this winning but aggressive program, someone is going to say, you can't legislate prejudice. That's right, but you can't legislate hate either. What we did do is outlaw murder, and what we ought to do is outlaw discrimination. Somebody will say education takes time. Well, how long does it take to educate a man for decency? We educate a man for law in 3 years, for medicine in 4 years, and grant a college degree only 16 years from the cradle. How long does it take to teach brotherhood? We've been at it since the first slave came here 343 years ago. Somebody will say the time is not right. Well, no man can enjoy his civil rights posthumously. Last Friday's anniversary of the Declaration of Independence reminds us that if we gave the disfranchised of America every right to which they are entitled today, we'd still be 176 years late. Sometimes I'm asked, what does the Negro American want? The answer is nothing special, just what everybody else wants. Nothing more and nothing less. We don't want any special cars to ride in or rooms to wait in. We don't want any special houses and blocks to live in or schools to go to. We don't want any special marks of identification or rules governing our right to vote. We don't want any special favors to put us ahead, or special agreements to hold us back. All we want is the right to live and work and play, to vote and get an education and be promoted, to fight for our country and hope to be president like everyone else. More than that we do not ask, but with less than that we shall never be content. We Negro Americans sing with all loyal Americans, my country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. That's exactly what we mean. From every mountainside let freedom ring. Not only from the Green Mountains and the White Mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire, not only from the Catskills of New York, but from the Ozarks in Arkansas, from the Stone Mountain in Georgia, from the Great Smokies of Tennessee, and from the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. Not only let it ring for the minorities of the United States, but for the persecuted of Europe, for the rejected of Asia, for the disfranchised of South Africa, and for the disinherited of all the earth. May the Republican Party, under God, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.